Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another exciting adventure of the storytellers. Tonight, we're going to talk about a subject that I've been wanting to discuss for a while, and that is the use of color. Color as a storytelling device, because it's very important. And I think that it's misused today, but when it's done right, it's amazing. So we're going to bring a pro on today. The very talented Gabe Eltaeb is here to discuss his theories on color, his applications thereof, and how he uses it to enhance the storytelling medium. Welcome, Gabe.
Hey man, how you doing?
I am awesome tonight. How about you?
Very good. Thank you for having me, man.
Oh, pleasure to have you. So let's first start with a little bit of your background. How did you get into comics, and what drove you to it?
My interest in comics, I always loved to draw. I don't remember when I started. I remember drawing in the back of my grandparents' restaurant when I was about 3 or 4, because I was alone. There was no one to watch me, and I was always drawing Star Wars space battles. It was like 1982 or something like that. And then I saw comic books. I didn't have money to buy them, and then I finally had enough money when I was like 12 or 13, and I saw X-Men #1 by Jim Lee. And when I saw that cover with the Beast, I was like, this is what I'm doing for a living. So I decided in 8th grade when I was 12 or 13, that's the job. And went to college, did this, did that, did a lot of things, worked for all kinds of small publishers, newspapers. I worked for the biggest Halloween prop manufacturer in the country. It's in my college hometown in Greeley, Colorado. You know those like 3D like zombies when you go in a haunted house that are pneumatic? The
Oh yeah.
biggest one in like America is in Greeley. It's called Distortions. I did designing for them. And this is like in the early 2000s. I started college in like 2000 or 2001. I did the newspaper strips in my college, like a Garfield Dilbert kind of thing. Won many awards for my comedy writing, and I drew that one too. And then after graduation, I was doing some children's books, just all kinds of art jobs, always doing everything I could. And then I hung out on the Image Comics message boards, and I got a little bit of, did a pinup for like Invincible issue 15, and did a pinup for Tony Moore and Rick Remender's Fear Agent. And I would just do little jobs here and there. And then I met Mike Barron when I was in college at a comic book store in Fort Collins, Colorado. That's about a half hour from where I went to college. And he gave me a job on the spot, drawing Detonator, issue 4. Remember Mike used to write The Punisher? The Detonator is basically a Punisher analog, so it was like hardcore adventure stories. And then I did more
Who
freelance
published
for
that?
small. Oh, Image Comics did
Oh,
that.
Image. Okay.
Yeah, that was my first professional gig, like in the mainstream or whatever, was Image, the Detonator. And then I did more independent comics. There was this really rich guy in Bermuda that did like The Dangerous Dozen, was this mythical like superhero World War II team, and Norm Breyfogle was drawing it, and I was coloring that. And then in the middle of the night one night on Jim Lee's blog, back when everyone did blogs in 2006, 7, there was a black and white Superman drawing up there, and I said they needed a new colorist at Wildstorm. So I colored it up, and 2 weeks later they offered me the job. So I moved out from Colorado back to San Diego, where I had grown up. And I worked at Wildstorm the last 3 years it was open, 2008 to the end of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went freelance. And then after 10 years of freelance, I said, what has this industry turned into, and do I want to be a part of it? And now I'm here talking to you. So that is the long, short version of what's been going on. So
Well, that's very well compressed. That's a lot of years in there.
Right. That is age 3 to about 3 seconds ago. So
Right. Well, it's a very similar story that you hear from a lot of artists. There's a comic that is that aha moment where you say, somebody got paid to do this. It might as well be me. That's what I want to do.
Right. Which comic was it for you?
It was a Justice League comic that my teacher brought in the 6th grade for the kids to read at recess. He brought a stack of comics, and I went through them, and I found this Justice League comic. It was when they had these 60-cent giants. This is a long time ago, 1974. And I saw these characters that I knew from other media, Aquaman from the cartoons, Superman from the Adventures of Superman, and of course, Batman. It was, I grew up in that era. And I was like, oh, look at all these great characters, and they're so much more realistic and action-packed and great colors and everything. And it was right then and there, and same type of thing. you know. Did you,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead. I was going off on a tangent, but go ahead.
Tangents are fine. That's what makes conversations. I
Oh,
was going
well,
to
what I was
ask
going
you that we
to.
have a slight delay. So you take the reins. Go ahead.
Oh, well, you were saying, how beautiful they looked and this and that. And I'm on my way home right now from Florida. I live in San Diego, and I was at Disney World for my 25th wedding anniversary. And I think, that aha moment when you see things. One thing that's always struck me before comics, when I was about 10 years old, The Little Mermaid came out. I was like 10 or 11. And that was that Disney Renaissance where they were back. Little
Right.
Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, just killer after killer after killer.
Right.
And I love Disneyland. I'm not one of those Disney adults where it's my personality, but I love the literal artistry of the fake buildings and the fake pirate cove and the fake haunted house. I loved model airplanes as a child, and I built dioramas. And if they didn't make a toy of a cartoon character I would make it out of clay or Legos or cardboard or whatever.
Hmm.
And there's just something about making beauty and making art that I don't know, God put that in me. Like I have to do it. I
Hmm.
have to do it. And what you said about that Justice League book, that you said, well, if someone's doing this, why can't it be me? I've always felt that way about everything. I was walking under, the Epcot globe at Disney World. They have it all rainbow and crazy because it's the 50th anniversary of Disney World this year. And I was standing under it last night with my wife, and I was getting like the quiver lip, getting emotional. I told my wife, Walt Disney is my kind of guy because when I see stuff like this, I think anything is possible. Like he was just a guy from Kansas, and look at what he did. All
Yeah.
these beautiful worlds, and the rides are fun, whatever, but like they're worlds. It's like you're in another world. I don't know. So I'm obsessed with that, making worlds that are uplifting and show people truth and beauty and the best of mankind and all that. So
Right.
that's
Right.
what art really means to me, is to make something beautiful,
Which is what
so
superhero comics used to be. They used
right.
to be, they used to be aspirational and inspirational.
Hmm.
They were not representational.
Yeah, yeah. If you could, these, and I don't want to get overly political here because we have fans that are left wing and they're nice people, but we all know what we mean when we say SJW, far left, crazy,
Hmm.
and
Sure.
they got a lot of ugliness in them, so that's what comes out of them. The
Hmm.
stories are ugly, the art is ugly, the message is ugly and
Hmm.
cynical, and everything's insincere, and they're terrified of vulnerability. You know what I mean? I can't stand the Marvel movies. I hate all of them
Mm.
because they have that super surface level, terrified of sincerity and vulnerability sense of humor. I can't stand that crap.
It's an
Um,
interesting take.
I hate it. I hate it so much that I guess we're in trouble. I guess Thanos is coming. It's like really like you're too cool for school all the time. It's just it's really, really grinds my gears, as they say. So
I thought the earlier ones were pretty good, and then by the time they got to Thor Ragnarok, it went off the wheels.
that's the one that I've only seen about 7 of them because I can't stand the sense of humor. But that is the one where I was like, ugh. When Planet Hulk runs out and Thor goes, I know him from work. It's like,
No,
is this the
right,
Big Bang Theory?
right,
Like it's
right.
that level of humor.
Exactly
Like,
right.
you know,
Exactly right.
it's humor for people who get confused reading the back of a cereal box. So
Well said. Well said. Well, let's talk a little bit about color. It's a passion of mine because I actually get depressed when I go to the bookstore and I look at all
mhm,
the graphic novels there and I see it and I leaf through it hoping to find some kernel of interest there, something different, something that speaks to me. And it's the same old shit. And one of the problems for me is the color. And that
mhm,
is that nobody uses color theory. Nobody uses
no,
color to separate form and planes so that the clarity of the storytelling is sharper. But what
right,
they do is they over render everything, including every muscle on the foreground figure, the middle ground figure, and the background figure. So there's
right.
no sense of depth, and everything flattens, and you don't know where to look.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Color is a very tricky thing to learn because like anything in life, it takes repetition, but there's another dimension to color that people don't understand. Laura Martin, the Eisner-winning colorist, she's my favorite colorist. Her and Elizabeth Breitweiser, they're the best colorists in this business, in my opinion. I don't think anyone can touch either one of them. But I remember reading Laura Martin's like blog back in college or something in the early 2000s. And I remember I wanted to work for Jim Lee, and she worked in Wildstorm. And when
Okay.
I worked at Wildstorm, I ended up sitting in her old chair. She no longer worked there. But on her blog, there was just all this theory about coloring and examples. And there was a paragraph I was reading, and it said the three things she always aimed for were mood, depth, and focus. And I've never forgotten that.
Hmm.
Because the human instinct, when you get loose with Photoshop, it's like handing a chimpanzee a SAW 249, light machine gun. Like you can go crazy with Photoshop, and it's way too powerful if you don't have any fundamental skills understanding color, art, form, line, contour.
Hmm.
And that's what you're talking about with that over rendering. So I think with the problem with color is we don't see color in a literal sense, like our eye sees red and it's red and green, it's green. We see color in a relative sense.
Hmm.
Red appears redder next to green. Gray appears lighter next to black. Gray
Hmm.
appears darker next to white. There's a great documentary that was produced and semi-starred by Penn Jillette, that big, loud comedian guy,
Hmm.
called Tim's Vermeer. And a friend of his paints a Vermeer painting. The Piano Lesson is the name of the painting. And
Hmm.
they go into this deep science of relative light and what some of the old Dutch masters were probably using the camera obscura to like trace the drawing with light and mirrors. But anyway, the bottom line with color that people are getting wrong is they use what's called local color. Local color is a fire engine is red, a banana is yellow, the sky is blue. None
Hmm.
of this is true. You look
Tree is
around you.
green.
Right. And
Yeah.
it isn't. Like you look in the leaves, and not only are they green with yellow and red, that's not even true. What if there's a blue light? What if there's reflected light? What if
Right.
it's sunset? What if it's morning? What if someone's walking by and their shirt's really yellow and it's
Hmm.
reflecting on them?
Right.
So color is relative what's going on, and people just don't understand it. And again, like anything, like you and I are both bodybuilders, we both work out a ton. It just takes repetition and work. So
Hmm.
I tell anyone that wants to do any of this, you learn as much as you can academically, but it's nothing if you don't go do it. There's that two types of knowledge I always tell people about. Epistemological knowledge is book smarts, which are worthless without technical knowledge, which is the knowledge that comes from doing it thousands of times.
Hmm.
I think our society glorifies college and academia, and I have a degree. I graduated with honors, and I think college is mostly useless. But our society glorifies education to the point where people forget that the education is mostly useless if you didn't practice it, and the practicing should outweigh the academia by far. That's why you have so many overeducated idiots in our culture nowadays.
Hmm.
So I'm really going on a tangent here. Rein me back in. What do you want me to home in on here? Because I'll just keep going about
Well,
academia and
no,
all
no,
that.
no. You were nailing it about color, about how
Mm,
light
mm.
um, uh, really determines what that color is, and its tonal
Right.
qualities,
Hmm.
its hue, its tones. Everything is determined by light and
Right.
what that light source is.
Right. And it's difference. And the way the human eye most notices difference is in black and white. Believe it or not, your peripheral vision is black and white vision. And the theory on this is that's to see snakes and bugs and danger out of the corner of your eye, because you're going to see movement easier in black and white. I'm pointing over here, but my hand's not in the frame because I'm on an iPhone. Sorry. So what I do when I color in Photoshop is I'll be coloring in regular color, and I'll put an adjustment layer. Google how to do that. It's very simple. It's one click or two clicks. An adjustment layer to make the entire image black and white. And I can turn that off and on as I work, and I can look for, is the edge of something bright enough or dark enough to make a difference? Because in color, it may look really different. If you have something green next to something red, but if you take that same green and red and turn it black and white, they might be the same gray.
Hmm.
And if
Right.
they're the same gray, that's what matters to the brain. Art, they say art is subjective. I disagree completely. People's taste in art is subjective, but art is based on science. It is pattern recognition, and that is wired into the brain. That's a science, pattern recognition. And art is successfully reproducing patterns. Now, they can be all kinds of ways, abstract and simplified, realistic, whatever. But the black and white is where the color happens. So a useful thing about Photoshop, This is why in the old days before computer coloring, you would do a tonal study. You know about this. You would do like a black and white study for your painting.
Yeah.
And you would know, I need a yellow that bright. I need a green that dark. Not just a green, not any green. I need that. And we call that value. I hate sounding like a teacher talking to preschoolers. And we call that value. So value is the lightness or darkness of a color. So that's the mistake that you're talking about, where they're just rendering the shit out of everything.
Right.
If they rendered every muscle and every fiber and every wrinkle, and then they turned their drawing black and white, they'd be horrified at what they saw. They would see wallpaper. It just looks like paisley, like just everywhere. And
That's
before
exactly right.
before we came on the air, I told you Doug Tenaple told me the most useful thing I've ever learned in art. I was over detailing his Bigfoot bill when I colored that like a year or two ago. And it's very cartoony. You know, it's done in that Bigfoot style, like Bugs Bunny and all that.
Right.
And he told me, let the big shape win. So if I can impart anything to people out here who want to just learn to draw or color, whatever, it's let the big shape win, because that's how the brain's going to understand the pattern. And when the brain understands the pattern of what you were trying to tell me with your drawing, dopamine is released. That's why you feel happy when you see beauty, when you see art. And that's why the postmodern garbage, where they're just, you know, Jackson Pollock or whatever, that's why it doesn't feel good to look at. It's interesting because it's a train wreck. It's not but it's not beautiful.
Right.
You know, so that's, you know, so I do think art is not subjective in a way, because patterns are patterns, and we're not in charge of that. The patterns exist in the universe before I was born. They'll be here after I am gone. So I don't just get to say
but
anything.
the artist
I can't bang
arranges
on a
them.
piano.
The artist
Go ahead,
arranges
sorry.
them.
Right.
The artist takes those patterns and arranges them so that they lose their randomness and they become choices.
A beautiful melody.
Yeah, they become
Right?
choices.
You arrange it. Yeah.
You know,
Because what I was saying is, if you just went up to a piano and hit it, how come nobody pays for concert tickets to listen to that? Because it's discordant. There's no pattern.
right.
So, you know, yeah, over rendering a drawing with color is breaking the pattern. You rendered a nice superhero in your black and white ink drawing, and it has a good pattern, it has a good silhouette, a good composition. Then if I come by and render every molecule, I break that. It falls apart. I need to, again, let that big shape win. So that's, as far as rendering the 3D-ness of something, it's all about the composition, and that's best seen in black and white. And then we can get into other things. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, the other aspect of coloring too that gets lost is that so much of the black and white is overly rendered as well. The details are so there's so much detail, and yet a lot of times the color will go over it, and all those details are lost, completely lost.
Right.
So I'm not sure which is the better way to let the color take that over or let the black and white shine through. I tend to lean towards the black and white.
Right. I say the detail should be in the drawing, in the line art drawing. And early in my career, about 15 years ago, I had real trouble coloring detail people, because I was like, well, what do I detail? All these parts of the motorcycle engine, and then it's got this, and he's got a belt, and he's got a headband, and then I colored some pages of a motorcycle gang that my friend was doing, and I realized if I let off the gas, it looked great. And you pick your spots. You say, oh, I'm going to put this rim light on this piece and leave the rest alone with the right color choices for the mood and all that. Let me take a sip here, because I've been talking too much. I don't want to cough right into the mic.
That's all right.
Sorry about that. So, yeah, I think that when work is really detailed, I was recently doing John Tim's work on Superman, Son of Kal-El. Very detailed. Great illustrator. The best illustrators I've ever worked with are animators. That would be John Timms, David Williams, and Philippe Briones. They all come from like animation backgrounds, and they just make stuff swish and fly and sing across the page. John Timms put so many details, and I had trouble doing like his Young Justice stuff like 2 years ago. And I figured out after about 6 issues of working with him, again, just let off the gas. Just pull it back and just make his composition pop. You know what I mean? Just compliment him. That's all.
Do you read the scripts when you have a comic? Do you read the scripts to see if there's anything that you can glean from the script that maybe the artist didn't translate emotionally, and then utilize the color to bring out that emotion?
I've never. I haven't read all the scripts. I will read them when I'm a little confused.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'll turn them into an audio file on my Mac and listen to them while I'm working on something else. Um, but yeah, I will read it if I'm confused. But if I usually I'm not confused. Usually I get the mood. I get what we're going after.
Hmm.
Someone's angry, someone's scared, something like that.
Hmm.
And then that's when you come into those color choices for mood. And
Hmm.
those are cultural, I believe. You know, like all human beings kind of feel the blue and the purple and all that. It's kind of sad and macabre. And I think that's our primal fear of the dark, fear of the unknown. And
Hmm.
red is vibrant and energetic. And you have, red lips
Violent.
and red peppers and fire and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So
Do you ever do
I'm sorry.
knockouts?
Yes, I do. And that's a good way to create depth. And what a knockout is, for the people that don't know, is when you see the black and white ink and then it's colorized. You know what I mean? So now it's
Oh,
blue or
actually,
pink.
no. That is true in the modern sense. I was referring to the old color term knockouts. Um, when they used to do just four color press stuff,
Uh-huh.
the old dot pattern colors. A lot of colorists like Marie Severin and working at EC Comics and stuff would use what they would call a knockout. It's like, let's say a foreground character was being attacked by a zombie or something like that, and
Oh,
she might color those two foreground colors in like a kind of a sickly green,
right.
and
Well,
then maybe do full color rendering on the background so that that knockout color makes them jump forward and also
sure.
translates the emotion of the panel.
Yeah, I do it all the time. We don't
Okay.
call. I had this discussion with Brian Cunningham like 7, 8 years ago, and it was a debate discussion of calling it a knockout because the modern term for knockout was the thing I'm describing, but
Yes.
you're using the older way. If people look at the show they're watching on YouTube, that you see those crabs on the fence there, they're
Mhm,
semi in a knockout. They're in a greenish blue knockout. I know the fence has some purple magenta in it and stuff,
mhm,
but yeah, I do that all the time, and that's a great way to pop that depth. And usually it works with like a cooler color, darker color, but oftentimes cool works in the foreground there. And
mhm.
usually have warmer colors in the foreground. But yeah, if you have some big explosive fight scene thing in the back, it's pretty cool to have those people in the front in shadow or something like that. And again, we'll go back to that thing about people using local colors, how they're getting it wrong. School bus yellow, apple red. Um, the knockout color in the old school term that you're talking about, that's not realistic, but it's effective. And
Right.
that's one of the things about art. It doesn't have to be realistic. If you want realism, just buy a camera, for God's sake.
Right.
Art just has to look good. I remember listening to a history podcast, Hardcore History by Dan Carlin, just amazing. And he was talking about academia and mathematics. And no, this was in one of the Nassim Taleb's books. So here's the point, though. He was saying like this, a lot of those Roman engineers that built those great temples and all this and that, most of them couldn't read or do any math. But through trial and error, they're like, okay, if we put the marble and the stuff here, it doesn't fall and kill us. So they're like, it has to just work. Do
Mhm.
I need to know why? So the knockout stuff, it doesn't really follow the rules of like,
Mhm.
why is this guy all green in the foreground? But it works.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you stumble along stuff like that that just works. So do it.
Joe Kubert used to say that if it looks right, it is right. If it
Damn
looks
right.
wrong, it's probably wrong.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
the other aspect too, that following along the lines of the knockout discussion, is that it utilizes what's called theatrical lighting.
Hmm.
And I love theatrical lighting in my comics. And when I work with colorists, I like them to utilize that stuff because it's bold, it's expressive, it separates things, and it adds clarity to the storytelling. Um,
Right.
how do you feel about that?
I think you're absolutely right. I think that it is very emotional. It makes the story feel important. And again, it goes back to those things we are talking about, mood, depth, and focus. So that theatrical lighting, it's going to get you that focus. It's going to tell the reader, look here, now look here, now look here. And that helps with that storytelling that this is what's important. Because the thing you start with, where they're over rendering every muscle, where
Hmm.
am I supposed to look? How's my eye supposed to go around the page? And again, you break that composition that the illustrator spent all that time building. He might have a fence or a wall or a laser or something leading you across the page to point at the character over here. And
Hmm.
you know how we lead them across the page. And if I color it wrong, I will break that. and I'm just supposed to
Right.
compliment you. You know, the inker's supposed to compliment the penciler, and the colorist compliments the inks, and blah 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 like that. So no,
Right.
it's. I think this is why football was useful for me growing up. You understand you're part of the team, and you don't go out of your zone where you're not supposed to be, and you don't let your teammates down. You know what I mean? You know
Hmm.
what your job is, and you do your damn job. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I look at that.
Um, you also do black and white work. You draw,
I
and
do.
you have some. Now, have you ever done any of that professionally? As in, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
my first job was drawing Detonator for Mike Barron at Image Comics.
Okay.
I drew a ton for that Halloween company I worked for. I drew my own comic strip for the college newspaper for 2.5 years.
Hmm.
I've drawn a ton in my career. I came into this business as an illustrator, and that's what I
Hmm.
wanted to be. But I found a home coloring, and frankly, for those of you playing at home, you make a lot more money coloring than drawing. Unless you're a top tier illustrator in this business, I made more than most comic book pencilers and inkers easily. You know, because the page rate for colors at DC is it was 135 page. Well, inks were about 160. You can ink one page in a day. You can color four. So you do the math.
Hmm.
Pencils, it's like 200 and something to 400 and something, depending on who you are. But it's going to
Hmm.
take you a day or two. So if
Hmm.
I'm coloring 3 pages a day for 4 pages a day for DC, I'm making over $500 a day. The pencils and inkers are making less money.
Right.
So Jim Lee told me that when I left Wildstrom. I was a colorist there on staff for 3 years. And he said, well, what do you want to do now that you're leaving? You know, we're still have a relationship with you. I said, well, I want to go back to drawing. And he told me, don't do it. He said, you'll make a lot more coloring unless you're a top level penciler. And so I took his advice. It was steady work and it was better
Mhm.
money. So, yeah. But I always draw for myself and stuff. And I feel like I don't get to draw enough, though. So that's why I'm really happy to be with you guys, because I'm getting to draw my own book and write it and all that. And
Mhm.
to me, the epitome of comics, I mean, there's a reason we call the awards the Eisners. He wrote it, he penciled it, he
Mhm.
inked it, he lettered it, the damn thing. Like
Mhm.
that is comic book artist. And I really do think, and this is controversial, but I will never back down from it. The artists are more important than the writers in comics by far. It's not close. This medium is about the drawings, whether Kurt Busiek likes it or not. That's what this is about. It ain't about the writers and their weird egos.
Mhm.
So I love drawing, and I can't wait to work on mine more. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, I don't know if it's controversial because I agree with it.
Well, they always get butthurt online, but who cares?
Yeah.
But it comes up every 6 months or so, a debate.
Yeah.
And no, it's not equal. Like the writers, please, we don't need you. We can draw cool stuff without you. Like the whole thing that makes a comic is the drawing, you know,
Mhm.
not the story. Stories are stories anywhere, movies, TV, books, whatever. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the difference is that it truly is a marriage. If it's going to be any good, you have to have a solid foundation. You have to have a solid story. The reason, to your point, the reason we remember Green Lantern, Green Arrow, hard traveling heroes isn't because of the stories. They were so heavy-handed polemics. We remember it because of Neil Adams' art,
absolutely.
but they weren't great stories. So
No.
yes, the stories are important because when you get a great story and you get Neil Adams' art, then you get
Yeah,
something to really remember. You
right.
know,
But that doesn't happen often enough in our business. You know what I
I
mean?
agree. I
So, I mean,
agree.
yeah, like the books that got me into this were the Jim Lee, Scott Williams, Chris Claremont X-Men. What were the stories in those? I'm not exactly sure. I
Mhm.
know the drawings were blowing my 12-year-old brain out the back of my head. I know
Right.
that. I
Mhm.
know I could give a shit what the story was. Like, what? Magneto's on an asteroid. Okay, it looks cool. Wolverine just chopped that robot in half. That was pretty awesome.
Uh-huh.
So, no, it's all about the art in comics. Are you kidding me? So, yeah.
David Williams, Mr. Brohawk Williams says, "Hey, Gabe, let me hold $100, Mr. Moneybags."
Oh, this guy's following me everywhere I go, drawing awesome Bass Reeves pages.
Oh,
We're doing
David is
Bass
great.
Reeves. Oh, David is one of the best I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
Fantastic artist.
Yeah.
And a good mentor for me, too. He's become a good actual friend of mine.
Yeah.
Like, I call him and ask him for life advice stuff.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's
Nice.
good. We get along real well.
Are you
So,
working
he
on my
gives me a.
story, David? Are you working on it yet? I'm talking to you.
Am I gonna? Is that the one you wanted me to work on for you? Two Fisted Manly Tales or something like that? Or
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
Dave's doing a story in that, um, along with the other guys.
Okay. Are
Yeah.
you? Can I? I'm gonna ask you this on there. Are you teaming me with Dave? Are you teaming me with someone else? Or
I don't have you teamed up with anybody just yet.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Uh,
working on Bass Reeves with him right now, and he is mean to me. He sends me corrections and adjustments, and they're all amazing because he's such a great artist. That's what pisses me off because I don't want to do them. I already colored the page, and then he sends me notes, and they're good. And I'm like, oh, I can't argue and say no, so I have to fix it.
yeah.
But he makes me better. I enjoy it. I give him a hard time about it. So
Here's another guy that we recognize, Ethan. Hey,
there he
bud.
is. He just he
Good to
just
see
says
you.
yes.
He says yes. That's all he needs to say.
Right.
Literature Devils here, Smoking Wraith, Hyper Kaiju. We got a good crowd in here today. This is
Cool.
cool. Zaid Comics. Yeah, he was on earlier today.
Right. Yeah. I was driving all day, so
Christina Lynn.
goodness.
Christina
Oh,
just
Christina.
proofread my script for Alien Alamo. She did a wonderfully fast and awesome job.
Very
So
cool.
some very talented people around, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I think it's the beginning of a golden age for comic skate and all that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's because I've been on the sidelines for a few years. I was able to work for the Brightwisers, and DC didn't get mad and this and that. And then I worked for your boy Zach under a pen name for years. That's just hilarious to me. I laugh every time I think about it.
Well,
And
what was your
like,
pen
cause
name?
what Michael G.
Michael
It's a
G.
family. It's a family member's name. So
Okay.
yeah. So but I just like what a ridiculous world that I'm not allowed to color a comic because some Hollywood leftist weirdos are gonna get mad that this guy called them on their bullshit. You know that Zach called them out on their nonsense.
Right.
So yeah. So but I really do feel like that you can feel the wave. You could feel something happening right
Hmm.
now. You know,
Hmm.
I think it's just like, oh, this is solidifying into something completely. It was always legitimate. It was always really happening, but it's just like some of the, I don't know, some of the things we can't talk about, but we all know about. Like,
Hmm.
whoa, what's happening here? This is fucking freaking awesome. I don't know your show how it's PG or not,
No,
but
no,
I don't know.
I've got an Irish mouth, so it runs
Okay.
off every now and then. So.
Yeah. All right. All right. I was football was a huge part for me growing up, and the coaches every other word was the F. I didn't cuss until I started playing football, really, and then I never stopped. So
I never started
yeah.
cussing until I started working in comics.
Oh, when you were
God
still at
damn
Marvel and
editor.
D, when you were still at Marvel and DC, were the deadlines fucked every issue? Like the last 10 years I worked there, I finally quit getting mad at it. I just accepted it as
Mm.
part of the job. Every book I work, I here's the thing for me, I'm very proud of. I've never missed a deadline in my entire professional career as an artist since 2000 to now. Never missed a deadline, but every book I worked on was late because the pencil was late, or the inker was late, or the
Right.
writer, or some combination thereof. You know, but was it that way when you were doing it? Just always late, late, late. It's like it gets ridiculous.
No, because Chuck and I were always on time.
Mm.
If it was late, it was somebody else's fault because we never missed our deadlines. And
Oh,
like
speaking.
you, I never missed a deadline since 1984.
Wow, I was in kindergarten in '84. Mrs. Sawaski's afternoon
Yeah.
class. I
Now,
remember.
not every project was gold, but hey, you know what? It costs the company money if that book ships late. There's
Right.
printing costs, there's setup costs, there's all kinds of things and then it's a domino effect. And so in the era I came up into comics, deadlines were everything. If you blew a deadline for Julie Schwartz and your name was not Neil Adams, you didn't work for him again.
I like that.
That's how editors were. They they
It
they
should be.
rewarded they rewarded their guys that were there in the trenches with them, and the guys that were all artsy fartsy whatever. There's like you're out.
Yeah, good. That's how it
Yeah,
should be.
that's how. But then that
But it's
started to
flipped
change.
in the last 20 years. It's flipped where if you're artsy fartsy, navel gazing, you get these primo jobs, and if you're dedicated and a deadline beater, they put you on every shit assignment they have to put out all their fires.
That's
It's like
right.
trying to date. You know how nice guys do horribly with women. They're like, oh, I'll do your homework and I'll drive you here, and then the girl will never date. It's like the same thing.
It
You
really
end up
is.
simping. You end up simping for DC Comics, and
Hmm.
it's miserable.
And
So
it's like these guys that just can't say no. You know,
right, and
uh,
I did that for a while. I lived in fear of saying no at DC
we all
Comics,
do. We all did.
and I was well. I'll tell you a funny story how it went though. I just got more and more miserable, more horrible assignments, more the last 3 issues of this series, and this one's late, and they were having me do everything because they knew I wouldn't miss a deadline. I called Jim Lee one day because he's the one that hired me, and we were friends. I would still be his friend. I hope he's still my friend. But I said, Jim, I don't want to do this anymore, man. I'm too good. I never mess up, and they're putting me on all the crap to fix all the problems. And he told me, you got to tell them no. He said, you got to quit saying yes to everything. So they gave me some shit assignment, and I said, no, I'm not doing that. And within months, I had Young Justice, and then I ended up on Superman. I was like, oh, so all I had to do, and it's like the dating thing again. It's like, oh, the girl likes the bad boy. She likes the guy that's a jerk. She doesn't like the guy that's nice. It's like, I know
Well,
this about women. How come I didn't know this about comics?
well, here's
You
the
know,
other thing.
so
You have you develop relationships, and if you're working with an editor for a long time, you develop a relationship. Sometimes it's a friendship relationship,
yeah,
and sometimes they get caught, between a rock and a hard place, and you step in, you help them out. Well, you do that for a bunch of editors, and they think you're a great guy, but then those guys get shit canned or they leave,
hmm,
and that favor has not been repaid, and it isn't going to get repaid by another guy. So when you
right,
want something, you know, well, what have you done? All this crappy work, all this shit that was cranked
right,
out, and that's what you're judged by. So,
right.
all you kiddies out there that are watching, learn to say no and stand by your convictions.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something I've done in the last few months, huh? Is just
Hmm.
to stand up for what you believe in, live
That's
in the
right.
truth.
That's right.
So,
Be honest, you know,
right.
um, and things will go your way eventually.
Y- I think I was talking about the golden age earlier, and I really do think I always talk about the horse and buggy in the car when I'm talking to people about things changing. And if you were a horse and buggy manufacturer, you're making buckboards and all that, and the car comes along and you're like, I'm not going to learn how to make cars. I'm going to stick, you'll be out of business in a few years because no one's going to want your buggy for their farm. And I feel like social media, YouTube, Twitter, all the stuff, there's never been a better time to get in being an independent artist. For the people out there that want to do this, all it's going to take is time.
Hmm.
That's all it's going to take, time and repetition of these skills. And the world is open now to learn anything you want. I'm not a car mechanic. I've fixed my brakes, replaced the door handle on a car, all just watching YouTube videos. You can learn
Oh
how to
yeah.
do anything online and then just go do it. And anyone out there that wants to do comics, you don't need DC and Marvel's permission. You don't need Image Comics and their communist commissar union approving your sanctity of your morals or Dark Horse on it. You can do this stuff on your own now. And it's like the car is here, and some people are still living in the horse and buggy.
Hmm.
And it's like you're going to get left behind if you don't
Hmm.
get with the new stuff. So I think
And
it couldn't be a better opportunity right now.
here, the paradigm was always, you seek out a publisher, and the publisher does all. You concentrate on the drawing and the writing or whatever it may be, the creating, and the
Right.
publisher handles the other stuff. But the truth is, the publisher doesn't really handle all the other stuff. Yes, they traffic it and they get it published and printed and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to promoting it, you have a very short window that they're going to allow you, and they will give that to you for that first month, that first issue, whatever, and then that book is on its own because they're moving on to my book now, and the guy behind me and the guy behind him, and that's how it goes. So you get a short window of promotion, whereas now, you're the captain of your own ship, of your own destiny. You can get out every single day. You can figure out the campaigns that you want to install in your project, and how to reach new faces, new readers, and new investors. Basically, if it
Right.
fails, it's not for lack of trying, but you did it. You didn't wait on somebody else to do a half-ass job for you.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. You shouldn't wait for other people. Like you're gonna live once and you're dead and that's it, man. No one comes back for a second round on this. You don't need other people's permission. You're a grown man or a grown woman, whatever you're watching this, do it. And there's no such thing as failure. I've argued with so many people in my life about this concept. There's no such thing as failure
Hmm.
unless you choose to quit. If you
Hmm.
choose to quit, you're choosing to fail. If you try and you try and you try and it never works, you are still a winner. If you're really trying, if
Because
you're
you've
really
learned
trying and
something too.
right, you're
You
right.
didn't
And
just walk away with a zero-sum gain. You walked
yeah,
away with new knowledge, new experience. All that stuff is a win.
right. And if you do something long enough, something has to give eventually. You know, I've spoken at colleges to art students about becoming a professional artist, and I give them this thought experiment. It's kind of a funny one, where I tell them, don't think about achievement and failure as good and bad. Detach those emotions from it and think of them as algorithms, as mathematical processes. I said, what would happen if I told you for the next 6 months you have to sit on your bed all day and drink 17 milkshakes and watch Netflix? Would you gain weight in 6 months of doing that? Guaranteed. There's no two ways about it. And that's bad. Now take bad away from it and just look at the process of that. If you do these steps, this thing happens. Well, if Graham does these 10 things, that happens to Graham. And if Gabe does it, that happens to Gabe. So if you out there watching do these 10 things, it'll happen to you. Forget good and bad, because we get caught up in good and bad and I don't deserve this because your dad didn't love you or some bullshit or someone told you you were a loser. Forget, fuck that. It's fake news. Forget all of it. Everything you want to do is just, if you copy the same steps I did, then you will draw and color and write comics too. It has to happen. It's just math. So
Hmm.
don't, no, you're living once, people. Don't give up on yourself. That's crazy. Don't do it. Don't listen to people who tell you you can't do it. They're full of shit.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. Oh, I couldn't agree more. Um, there's certain limitations we have, obviously. I mean, I could work as hard as I wanted to be the center fielder for the New York Yankees, but I couldn't hit the fastball. It wasn't going to happen. But
I
you know,
believe there's a world where it could have, though, with that. There's an algorithm. There's a math equation in my
mhm,
mind that would equal it eventually. Maybe it would take you 75 years, and you know what I mean. But I believe anything's possible. I told you, I don't know if I was on the air when we were talking about Disney World and Epcot, and I
mhm,
got emotional looking at that ball, the spaceship Earth.
right.
I told my wife, "This is my guy, Walt Disney. He makes me feel like anything is possible."
Yeah.
Like his name is on all this stuff and it's all beautiful. And look at all these people walking around smiling like idiots, paying $9 for a corn dog. You know what I mean? Like this is so beautiful that a person could do something, make that many people happy. It's amazing. I'll
He
tell you the
said if
best
you can
moment.
imagine
Go
it, you can create it,
right.
you know?
The, and what I want to keep hitting from my art is I had this comic book I did, Superman, like 3, 4 years ago. And I think I may have already talked about this on podcast, but real quick, the Justice League goes to a children's cancer hospital. They play with the kids, they talk to them, they take them to the Justice League base, they take them to the moon, all this stuff. And these kids are all going to die. You can tell they got the hose in their nose, they're in wheelchairs, they're all bald, and they're going to die because the heroes don't have that power to heal them. But they have a wonderful day with these kids. And then Superman takes them to the moon and carves all their names in the rocks up there with his laser vision or something like that. People come up to me at Comic Cons crying, wanting autographs. And I bought 20 of these and took them to the hospital. And we read it to the daughter that had cancer and all the. I want to make that kind of art. I don't want to make SJW, left wing,
Mhm.
hateful, cynical garbage.
Who
I
wrote
want
that?
people to. I don't even remember because it was like I've worked on so many hundreds and I could
Mhm.
do 4 books a month as a colorist. So, multiply
Yeah,
that by the last like 15 years. I don't even remember. Barry
right.
Kitson drew it. It was a fill-in issue. I
Okay.
want to say it was Peter Tomasi, but I think I'm wrong.
Mm,
But I know Barry Kitson drew it.
cool.
But I want to just keep making art like that to make people feel inspired and they'll make the most of their life. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That they won't just give up. I had a single mother. I had a child at 18 with my wife. You can always tell how long we've been married by how old my daughter almost is. You know what I mean? We had our 25th wedding anniversary was like 3 days ago. We're in Disney World, and my daughter's going to be 25 in March. So there you go.
Uh-huh.
So that do the math in your head.
Yeah.
That makes us Mexican. So I love that joke. I've been telling that joke for years. But we were dirt poor. She was waiting tables. I was working at Toys R Us. I was working construction. Then I was unemployed because I met the people at Wildstorm and I thought they were going to give me a job. And it was horrible. So when I see people suffering and their life is languishing and they're poor and they feel like a failure and they're never going to make it, I just want to touch them and say, no, 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 you're going to get out of this. Just stick to the plan every day. You're going to get out of this. And I think what demotivates people is they go to Mount Everest and they look all the way up to the top and they say, fuck it, that thing's huge. And I'd say that too. But the secret to motivation, Marcus Aurelius, my favorite guy, Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, I have his book Meditations. It's super motivational. It's his journal, the Emperor's Handbook. He said the best way to have intrinsic motivation, that's motivation that comes from your own heart, is to focus on the current step. Any of us can climb Mount Everest if we just think, can I take this step? That's just 12 inches. And then after we do that one, go, well, can I take this one? That's just 12 more. Don't look at the peak. No one wants to do it if you look up there.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people one day at a time, one thing at a time, and then just go to bed.
Right.
Don't worry about tomorrow. You know.
Oh, I tell a lot of people that ask about like fitness things and everything because I'm not motivated. You know, I need motivation. And it's like, no, you don't need motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Motivation is ethereal. What you need is commitment. Commitment overrides motivation because you got to go whether you feel like it or not. Commitment is quantifiable, and that's how you achieve goals. If you do, and if you're committed and you keep going or whatever it is, doing something, doing a drawing, even though you're not, you're not motivated to draw it, but you're committed to drawing it. So you're going to do that drawing that day. Commitment turns into habits, and habits turn into success. So
damn right.
That's what I always preach to people.
Oh yeah, that's Aristotle said that character is built through habit. Right. So eventually, like you're saying, that commitment, that habit, it will become your character. Eventually, you will enjoy dieting and exercising or whatever you do that day. So I did a lot of football. That's where I get a lot of my mentality about never quitting and this, that. What you told me, you wrestled or boxed or what'd you do growing up?
Yeah, I wrestled.
Okay. I wrestled 1 year as a sophomore, 1,000 times harder than football. Oh my God. Wrestling is like the worst thing I ever did.
The longest 6 minutes of your life.
That's what she said. But no, I was an undefeated heavyweight as a sophomore. But oh my God, that wrestling, there was no joy in it. Football was at least fun. Wrestling was literally, I mean, it's stupid to say because it's obvious. It was just a fight.
Well, what
it was just an ugly fight.
What I liked about it, it was a team sport, but it was also an individual sport. So you did stuff for the team, and so you had that camaraderie and stuff. But by the same token, when it was your time and you were on the mat, it was all you. You know, so that's what I enjoyed.
Did you go far with that? Did you wrestle in college?
No. I just in high school. You know.
Okay.
I didn't go to college. I went to the Hubert School for a couple of years and a couple of years at community college because I ran out of money, and it was always running out of money. That's my problem.
What about your white privilege?
Yeah, I'm waiting for that to kick in. I dug a lot of ditches with my privilege.
Right, exactly.
You know, to pay for school and stuff, you know?
Yeah. So, man, we are far away on Tangentville. So
we are, but that's okay.
We're not talking about coloring.
Yeah, well, we covered a lot of that, but there's always more. But that's what makes these shows fun is when we actually do have conversations. I mean, sometimes it's like pulling teeth, you know. And no, this is great. I'm really enjoying this interaction. So, you know, the reason I asked you about your drawing is that because you know, now that you've come over to do self-publishing and have embraced Comicsgate and that whole movement and stuff, you're going to be launching something soon, right?
Yes. The plan tentatively, do not hold me to this because I have to talk to my partner. I've got 2 books already right now. One is Oath of Blood, Oath of Bone. And that is illustrated by Philippe Briones. We did Aquaman together, and we hated the deadlines and all that. We were always scheming and making up comics and all this and that. And it was just perfect timing for me to really come out and join Comicsgate, talk to Philippe, and we made a new concept, and it's amazing. I've shown the art on streams.
Yep.
And then I have my own book that I'm writing and drawing, and that's Beef Law. And it is a Van Damme movie from the 90s. It's a Steven Seagal, Van Damme, knock 'em out, Hong Kong underground tournaments and Russian mafia. It's totally that movie. So, and I love that stuff. And I love it in a sincere way, not in a mocking or anything way. That was some of the best nights of my childhood. It was middle school and high school. My very best friend, Merlin, we would do this thing called Stupid Movies on Friday night. And we just go to the video store and rent just dumb Van Damme movies and Steven Seagal and all that crap. And we would just laugh and watch them and eat candy. And, you know, you're 15, you're 14. And then you try and do the kick to your friend and you end up hurting him or yourself. So, but I'm in love with that stuff. And my enthusiasm for that stuff will come out to you guys. You will see. I mean,
Good.
I just think that is the best stuff. I don't know how you feel about 90s action, but I don't think there's anything cooler. So,
Well, when I was in high school, we used to watch Chuck Norris movies, the
sure, same
Octagon
thing.
and that kind of
Right.
stuff. And we'd live, all my buddies, we'd sneak beers into the movie theater and stuff. We'd come out in the parking lot and we're all like, getting groin tears trying to do those leg kicks that
Right.
we would do, doing our chappy saki stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Right.
We had a lot of fun with doing that kind of stuff. But so I get the 90s stuff.
Yeah, there's just something about Van Damme, just that accent and his ridiculous, just over the top
Mhm.
persona that he is. There was just something about him that just struck a chord with both of us that it was. I think if I was 15 and I wrote a movie, I would have written Bloodsport. And I'm not insulting the writer Sheldon Lettich, but the sensibilities of that were exactly what I wanted. You know what I mean? So in my book, Van Damme plays his own twin in like 5 movies, which I think is hilariously corny. So in my book, we have twin brothers that are both kickboxer martial artists taking on the Russian and Chinese mafia to defend their family from loan sharks and corrupt CIA agents and all this. The stakes get really high. You find out, oh my God, this is like a huge problem. So I wish I could show some art right now, but I'm on my wife's iPhone right here. So I was looking at my iPad right there, seeing if I could airdrop something to you, but I'm having trouble figuring this out. So, but yeah, I'm very excited about that. Oh, and as far as release date, I got to talk to Philippe to be sure. But since my whole thing about leaving DC over the treatment of Superman, it was that Truth, Justice, and American Way. When I saw that first script by Tom Taylor, that idiot, it was Truth, Justice, and a Better World was the name of the first issue. And I was like, gosh damn it, I knew this guy would do this shit. I was so disappointed. So since my brand is American, patriotism, supporting this country and everything it's given me, I think President's Day is a great day for me and Philippe to launch. You know what I
Nice.
mean? And yeah, Oath of Blood and Oath of Bone. And I'll tell you that if you're out there, fans watching right now, I have to thank you guys because you gave me something from my childhood. When I was a little kid drawing in the back of my grandparents' restaurant, nobody told me what to draw. Nobody told me what the story was. I just got to be creative, like Walt Disney, making all those things and just making beauty and making fun. And I was talking to Philippe, and we're like, do you want to do this story? Because we'd already made up this one, like Legend of Zelda, Lord of the Rings kind of thing. Or do you want to do this one? And it was like space and matrix stuff with mind machine interface. And it's like, no, let's make up something new. So we are like, oh, the characters of this, that. And Philippe asked me, what do these characters look like? And I turned to him and I said, we were Skyping. And I said, well, what do you like to draw? And I heard myself say it and said, oh my God, we can draw whatever we want. We can write whatever we want. And that's you guys, the fans. You gave me that. And the other comics gave artists, but by sustaining this business, but mostly the fans, thank you. You have no idea what that means to a person like me who just started drawing when he was alone in his grandparents' restaurant when he was 2 or 3. You're like a little guy. Nobody was watching me. I'm just back there doodling away with crayons. And you gave me that back. Instead of working on leftist propaganda for CNN comics, I can just do awesome, fun stuff.
Right.
And it's a
Right.
dream come true. It's an absolute dream come true. So I'm going to look real quick for these drawings. So I don't know what you think of what I just said, but I'm going to look really quick on this iPad. So give me a sec. I'm listening though.
Yeah, no. That's fine. Let's we got Smoking Wraith is a big fan of Philippe's artwork.
Philippe is a master.
Looks amazing.
Absolutely. Oh, I wish I could find it really quick. Do I have it in an email or a text? Yeah, I'm on the road for my 25th wedding anniversary. So I don't know if I have that anywhere in this computer. Let me look in here.
I had somebody asking me a question here about Bane, I think.
All right.
Oh, what is this? I saw Nightfall trade with Batman over Bane's knee on the cover in Barnes & Noble the other day, and Graham and Chuck were not mentioned in the credits. Huh.
Jerks.
Yeah. Usually, usually they'll give us credit in the comics. We have never gotten credit in like the Christopher Nolan movie. The caterer
Did
got
you?
credit, but we didn't.
Can I ask you? I'm gonna ask because I'm nosy. Did you get any pay for Bane being in that movie?
Yeah,
Because you
we,
should have, right?
the one thing about DC back in the 90s, actually, it started in the 80s with Paul Levitz, was that they offered equity deals, equity contracts. If you created
Right.
something for DC, you could file for equity and you'd have a contract. And
Right.
that was true with Bane for Chuck and I. So, whenever they use the character, they have to pay us.
Nice.
The thing is, how do we, how do we know how the accounting is, on some
Right.
of these
That's
things?
that magical Hollywood accounting.
Yes, that
You know how that
vertical
works.
integration, they used to call that.
Oh, the movie didn't make any money, I
Right,
swear.
right.
Yeah, I've heard that one
You know
before.
that David Prowse used to say that he'd get his annual statements about the Star Wars movies,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
up until the day he died, they never showed a profit.
Oh, really? Star Wars never made any money. Oh, that's weird.
Never made a profit.
Please. That's so ridiculous. Yeah, that's what I've heard from different movie stars and comedians that it's always that Hollywood accounting is what they call it.
Yeah.
I do know that Disney is notoriously cheap. When Marvel wanted to hire me to do Marvel Zombies 2, they were going to give me like about half my DC rate per page to
Hmm.
color. And I turned it down because of the rate. And it went on to be like the #2 selling book that month or something. It went on to have good sales. So maybe I would have got royalties. Did Marvel do royalties? DC did royalties for me.
DC did actual royalties. Marvel coaxed it in they used to call it incentives,
Oh,
so that they didn't really actually owe it to you because it was an incentive, so they could pull it if they needed to. Whereas a royalty has to be paid.
okay. Oh, you know what? I got a funny story about Marvel royalties. So in 2012, Carlos de Anda, Brian Wood, and I did those Star Wars comics where Alex Ross did those covers, and it sold like a million jillion copies. There were like seven printings of issue one, and it was a great selling comic. And we did 20 issues of that, and I did a 4-issue miniseries later with Matt Kind and Dan Parsons and someone else. So anyway, Disney buys Star Wars 3 months into that run with Brian Wood, and like 5 or 6 years later, I'm on Facebook and I drop the phone. I'm on Facebook and I hate Facebook. I don't check it too much. And I'm looking in the messages folder, and there's that second message folder from people you don't know. It like sticks the messages in there so it doesn't bother you. I look in there and there's a message from a dude at Marvel in accounting, and apparently they owed me thousands of dollars for the royalties for the Dark Horse comic. For years they owed it to me. So if I had never just looked in that folder, I would. So yeah, so I had to fill out all this Disney paperwork and all this stuff. They sent me a big check. It was nice. But
Wow.
yeah, I guess they owed me money for years for the Dark Horse comics because they reprinted them all in these big phone books. But they didn't send it to me because they sent me one, but the other one was out of print, so they said I couldn't have it. So whatever. But I'll
Interesting.
just take the money. So, but that was neat to get some secret royalties on the back end.
You know
So
what's interesting too is that different countries have different trademark, copyright, and royalty laws. And
really,
regardless of what it is for Marvel or DC, um, or in my instances, it was King Feature Syndicate. There's a website, I think it's called the Authors Coalition, and what they do is they gather royalties that are due from overseas reprints, and
oh,
they get that and they hold on to it for disbursement. And if you can go to the site, there's a whole list of cartoonists and artists and stuff whose names are on there that are owed money from
what's it called?
royalties. I believe it's the Authors Coalition.
Okay,
And somebody told me about it, so I went on it. And King Features didn't pay any royalties for anything for all the years I did the Phantom for them, and they reprinted that stuff in the Scandinavian countries and Australia, but they have different laws there. And so I went on that site and I saw my name, and I clicked
Oh,
on it and stuff, and I filled out the paperwork, and I got a check for like $5,000
nice.
for overseas royalties that I never got for the use of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So, if there's any of you guys out there, you should always check on that kind of stuff, because whether or not these guys say you're owed or not is irrelevant to the laws of the other countries in which those things are printed.
Right. That's really cool. Yeah, you probably felt the same way I felt about those Star Wars things. So, hey, I sent you a drawing on Twitter. I don't know if you can pop it up or not. It's
Let's
from
see.
Beef Law, and I'll try and send you one to I'll try and send you one of these Philippe ones, one or two of those. It's in our private message there on Twitter, I hope.
Here it is.
That's what I've been working on the iPad next to you.
Okay, I'm going to pull it up now. Hold on.
It's the first page of Beef Law, and it's Maximilian Volkov. He's one of the kickboxing brothers, and he's in a warehouse, and he's in an underground pit fight. So he's flying through. That's the first splash page of the book. So it's underway. I've been writing this thing for like 2-3 years. It doesn't take me that long to write, but I've rewritten it and rewritten it and rewritten it, and I really love where it is now.
Is this digital? Did you do this digital, or is that traditional art?
I think I did it in pencil, that figure, I think, and then I scanned it in, and then I did it all in digital after that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I got what's his name? Clayton Henry. I got his brushes for Procreate. So that was drawn on my iPad.
Nice.
So yeah, the iPad I just sent it from. So let's see if I can get you.
That face looks like Michael Golden or Chris Sprouse to me. It has that.
I love those two. I
Yeah.
love those two. One of the things I love in artists the most is people that draw handsome faces and beautiful women. I think everyone in comics should be idealized, like an ugly person should be hideous. A beautiful woman should be just gorgeous. The handsome man should be the Prince Charming. I really love those iconic looks. So I strive for it. I don't know if I hit it, but I strive to do that. I'm downloading just a couple of the Oath of Blood stuff with Philippe.
Okay.
I'll try and send that to you.
Yeah, answer this question for Heroinberg. From what I've been told by DC Freelancer, DC royalties start at a certain sales level. It's either 30 or 40K. I forget which.
It's 60,000.
Yeah, it used to be 75.
Right. They had
it used to be 75.
Right.
Back when
the sales.
Yeah. When the sales were much higher.
Right. Back when the sales were not an embarrassment. So, but hold on, I'm getting another one for you. Save to device, and then I'll send these to Twitter. But yeah, and the cool thing though, they do treat you good on the royalties. You get them every quarter, so you just get a payment. My first DC colorist didn't get royalties, and then Bob Wayne fought for us like in 2000 and I want to say 14 or 15, and colorists have been getting royalties ever since then, every quarter. So we get a royalty at Christmas, we get a royalty in April, we get one in like July, and we get one in October or something like that. And I bought my kids a car that they used in high school with my very first one in Christmas of 2014.
Nice.
So I bought them. Yeah, I bought them a used Toyota Camry with that royalty money. And me and my wife did the whole thing where you put the red bow on it, and we hid it around the corner for like 2 weeks. We parked it in front of someone else's house down the street, so my kids wouldn't know that I bought a car. But I was really happy with that car. And then we were able to give it to a family member later who was poor and didn't have a car. So that car was a blessing, man. Got my kids through high school. My daughter used it for a year while she lived in Hollywood. Then she came home and we had it at home. And then I gave it to a family member who was down on his luck and needed a vehicle. So that was a really great thing that we were able to have that car for so long. I miss that car. That was very, very sentimental to me.
Now imagine how many cars you could have bought had you owned that property that those royalties were being made on.
Right. So and speaking of that, this is what I own here with my buddy Philippe. So Beef Law, I own that all by myself. And then these three that I'm sending you right now on Twitter, those are pages from Oath of Blood, Oath of Bone. That is crazy martial arts because me and Philippe both love Van Damme and Rambo, but this one is science fiction. So you have like chimeras, like being combined with people being combined with animals and humans, and we also have transhumanism, where people are combined with robotic, like Matrix kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And let Let me find the page with the Camaros. I'll send that to you. I love that page.
Who's the
So this is
artist for this
Philippe's.
one? Is this Philippe?
Philippe Briones. He was
Okay.
a lead animator in Disney Paris, and the Tarzan, Treasure Planet, Brother Bear, Atlantis, that era. He
Mm-hmm.
was a lead in Disney Paris. Then he came to do comics, like French comics. Then he came over and did Marvel. He did DC comics with me. We met doing Aquaman together because because the main artist, Brad Walker, didn't ever keep the deadline. Poor guy. He's a great artist, but he's very slow. Very nice guy. I'm not trying to badmouth him. He's just very slow. Very good artist. And so I got to work with Philippe on a majority of the books, and we just have the same sensibilities, the same kind of views about life and stuff like that.
Nice.
And so we just came up with a concept about this book, and I'll go into more detail about the concept, but the art is just amazing to me. And I said the best artists I've ever worked with are all animators. So here's your Disney animator, and he has those chops where he gets storytelling, and he gets that the characters need to look like the story that they're telling.
Mm-hmm.
So and this is like, again, the gift that you Comicsgate fans have given me is to be childlike in my creativity. Where I'm talking to Philippe, I'm like, well, what do the monsters look like? He's like, well, what do you want them to look like? What do you like to draw? But when creating the characters in the story, this is the most unique thing we've ever done. We're just bouncing it back and forth. I gave him some story ideas. Then he drew whatever he liked based on it. And then I gave the characters background stories. And then I looked at, and then the more drawings, and then more story, and more drawings, and more story. And we have these video Skype meetings, he and I, where we go over his art, and then we brainstorm, and I tell him some story. I write some Marvel Method script, and it's just going awesome. And he's already drawing pages. So this book is rolling out.
Mm-hmm.
I already wrote the first act, which is really that, a lot of great action movies have that fun action scene at the beginning with the chase or the battle or the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I already wrote that first whole thing out that gets us to the inciting incident on the hero's journey. I wrote that out Marvel Method, and he is illustrating it right now. So,
Cool.
and I know there's a complaint from fans in CG, and it's legit, and I will never tell a fan that their feelings aren't real. And one of the complaints they have is the books take too long to come out. And that sucks. That's got to be a crappy feeling to pledge to something, and then it just feels like it's never coming. One thing I can tell you about Philippe, the reason he and I did so much Aquaman is we don't miss deadlines, and he turns work around quickly. Again, these drawings you're seeing, those are sketches. Those aren't comic book pages. This is just concept art.
Mm-hmm.
He is a very disciplined man. He's not an artiste, even though he's French. He's not an artiste. He's a worker. You know what I mean? He's a craftsman like me. I approach it more from that athlete, football player mentality, and
Mm-hmm.
he's the same kind of guy. He loves to exercise and play sports, and so we're very simpatico, Philippe and I. We're on that same wavelength of get it done. And I'm not promising this, so you don't clip this video and say that I said this was going to happen. But when he and I talked, I said we could do 3-4 of these a year. He could easily do it, and so could I. So I know fans want more and they want quality. So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to earn that from you. I don't feel entitled to anyone, not a penny from anyone. We're going to earn it. And again, just thank you guys for giving me back that childhood. I can make art that I want to make that makes people happy and it's
Mm-hmm.
uplifting. Like, it's such an amazing thing. The last issue Superman I worked on, they got rid of my colors and they had hi-fi color instead because they were so mad at me or whatever. But I'm sitting there coloring the book, and fucking Superman, he's wearing a COVID mask in the comic. And I'm not saying for or against masks. I'm not saying that. I'm saying he's a superhero. He can breathe in outer space. Like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
I'm sitting there looking at it like, why are we doing this? So, and I'm not commenting on the disease or wearing a mask or taking a vaccine. I'm not commenting on that. I'm commenting on why is a hero doing that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just so.
Why is
It's
an
like, this isn't
indestructible hero doing that?
right. A guy that can like fly into the sun almost or whatever. The guy
Right.
that can catch a planet. A guy that can like really. He's wearing a cloth mask. It's like I see you virtue signaling, Tom Taylor. I get it.
Yeah.
This is
That's
what you have
exactly
instead
it.
of
That's
a fucking personality. Is just fetching applause from everyone for having the right opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy doing that without me. So, so we're gonna make comics fun and exciting, and it's gonna be worth your time and money to get these out. Let me squint in here.
Look at that. The Green Lasers says Steve Ditko's name is still on that Authors Coalition
Oh
list.
wow!
Wow.
Someone's checking out.
Well, that'll be a heck of a check. I can tell you that.
Right.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
So,
I'm reading the chat. I'm not paying attention.
no, I'm reading it too.
Smoke and Wraith, thank you. Says Philippe concept art is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to see when he tries. Philippe is one of those people that has integrity. He walked away from DC like 4 years ago because he was so tired of how they treated us with the Aquaman, just giving us all the shit deadlines because they knew we would just never miss a deadline, he and I. And we were both exhausted, working late nights, working through holidays, missing birthday parties. You know how it is, Graham. You're
Mm-hmm.
just, you feel like you're family with them, and they're not. This is a billion-jillion-dollar company. You're a cog. They could give a shit about you. You know what I mean? And I loved his integrity that he just said, I'm out of here. And Marvel called him up when he left DC and said, come back. And he said, no, fuck you guys too, because they treated him the same way. And I was too scared to do it at the time. I'm ashamed of that. I should have walked away sooner. And I just respected the hell out of that. Like, wow, Philippe can just walk away from DC. And then I ended up doing it myself. So I guess I can be proud of myself now too. But he's the kind of guy you want, fans, CG fans. He's your guy. Believe me, he's a great worker and a solid man of integrity. So he's really taught me some things. I like guys like Graham and like David Williams and Philippe because I'm 43 and you guys are in your 50s. And as a football player and coach and all that, I love that mentor relationship with the older brother or the uncle guy. That's who you are to me, your Uncle Graham or whatever. You can tell me, no, Gabe, do this or do that. And I'm going to be like, yeah, you know what you're talking about. You're older
Old
than me.
man
You're
Nolan.
more experienced. Right. Hey, tell the truth. Did I not like DM you and ask you all about fitness tips and diet tips and all that?
You did. You did.
Right. Because I look at you and your physique and I say, okay, he knows what he's talking about. You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
listen to people that know more than me. I don't have any pride about that. I think if you don't listen to people that know more than you, you're being stupid and
Well,
you're
that's
shortchanging
ignorance.
yourself.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
would I not want to steal your knowledge? Right?
Right.
It's
Exactly.
less work for me.
Yeah.
So
You don't have to
yeah,
make the same mistakes.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Oath of Blood, Oath of Bone. I want to launch it on President's Day. I'll wear a big American top hat and the whole white beard. I'm gonna do the whole thing. I hope Graham and all my kings will be there,
We'll
supporting.
be
So
there. We'll be there to launch.
so
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be exciting, man. This is a killer
Excellent.
book. And I got a Disney story guy with me. So Philippe is solid on story. He's really good on that stuff.
Outstanding.
So
Outstanding.
very
Well,
cool.
we're so glad to have you come over
Thanks, man.
to CG. You're a great personality, a terrific artist. And I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge. And I mean, I really, you put yourself out. The poor guy is driving back to California from
I
Florida,
drove 8. I
you
woke
know.
up at 4 a.m. at Disney World and I'm in Beaumont, Texas right now. And I
Okay.
got to tell you, I am not allowed to live in the South
Hmm.
because the food down here will make me 7,000 pounds. I had a
They fry
boudin
everything,
ball.
dude.
Do you know what a boudin ball is? I just found out this afternoon. I had 2 of them. It's a ball of pork sausage and rice, deep fried in like chicken fried steak batter.
Hmm.
Oh my God, it'll change your life, Graham. It's so good. For my 2-week vacation with my wife, I'm not following any of your diet advice. I'll get
Okay.
back on it though.
Fair
When I
enough.
get home,
You got to
I'll
live a
behave
life.
when I get home. Right.
Attaboy.
So, thank you so much for having me. I had fun. I hope I wasn't. I'm tired from driving. I hope I was energetic enough
No,
and good
you
on
were.
you.
You
So,
were great. I think the fans loved
okay.
hearing you. And, I hope you have a safe trip the rest of your way back. And we'll be seeing you on the shows coming up. That's for sure.
Yeah, and fans, please subscribe to my channel. Check out the videos. I know I haven't
Well,
posted,
yeah,
but hey, I've been at Disney World, so
that's
I'm
right.
heading back home. I'll be home Friday. Maybe I'll do a show this weekend or something. But I love doing the videos and the chats, and
Hmm.
I'll let you go, Graham. I know I'm going on, but I mean it, guys. I'm looking right in the camera. You guys have given me my dream back to make art that's beautiful again, and I will repay you. I will make awesome art for you guys. I promise.
You
I
will
will not
indeed.
let you down.
And
So
folks in the chat, please remember to subscribe to my channel if you like these
yes,
shows. Hit the like button, hit those reminders, and tell your friends. The Storytellers is a show that I try to be educational about the history of comics and about the art form itself. And I have some of the best guests in the business on, Gabe being one of them. So thanks
thank
everybody
you so much.
for checking in and watching the show tonight. Tomorrow night is the Professionals. It's on
Mm.
I believe Aaron. I think it's on Arts Channel tomorrow night. And I have a Monday show now. I continued on my 31 Days of Monsters by popular demand. So now we do Monster Monday, and this Monday we'll be talking about Rosemary's Baby. So make sure you watch that before Monday. You have your marching orders and your homework set ahead of you. So thanks again, gang, and we shall see you next week. Bye-bye now.